Hey there, welcome to Whispered Tales. I'm Ethan, your storyteller tonight. Picture this, you're sinking into a cozy bed. The world outside, fading away. Take a slow, deep breath. Feel it fill your chest and let it go. Soft and easy. Let your shoulders drop. Your worries slip away, like leaves drifting on a quiet stream. Tonight, we are heading to a peaceful forest where the trees whisper secrets and the air feels like a gentle hug. There's a little pig there, soft and pink, chasing something he thinks he's missing. Sound familiar? We've all felt that tug, wondering if happiness is just out of reach. But this pig's journey might surprise you. It's a story about finding joy right where you stand. So, close your eyes, get comfy, and let my voice guide you into a world of calm and wonder. Ready? Let's begin. Deep in a forest where moonlight spilled like silver syrup over ancient trees, there lived a little pig. He was soft, round, and pink, with a snout that twitched at the smallest breeze and a belly that jiggled with every chuckle. His home was a quiet corner of the woods, where the air smelled of damp earth and the leaves whispered secrets to anyone who'd listen. At the heart of this haven was his favorite spot, a cool, squishy mud pit nestled between gnarled roots and soft moss. It was his sanctuary, a place where the world's noise faded, and all he felt was the gentle hug of the earth beneath him. Each evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky in hues of lavender and gold, the pig would waddle to his pit. He'd ease himself in, first one hoof, then another, until the mud welcomed him with a satisfying squelch. He'd roll to the left, then to the right, letting the cool, silky sludge coat his skin. The sensation was like slipping into a dream, soft, grounding, safe. He'd close his eyes, listening to the forest's lullaby, the rustle of leaves, the distant hoot of an owl, the faint ripple of a nearby stream. "This is peace," he'd murmur, his voice barely louder than the breeze. "This is home." But tonight, as he lay in his muddy cradle, a quiet restlessness stirred in his chest. The stars blinked above, each one a tiny question mark in the velvet sky. He gazed at them, his snout glistening with mud. "This is enough, isn't it?" he whispered. The words felt heavy, like pebbles sinking into the pit. He loved his simple life the way the mud cooled his skin, the way his laughter echoed through the trees. But a small voice inside him wondered, was there more? Was there a bigger, brighter happiness waiting just beyond the forest's edge? He thought of the lives he saw around him. The rabbit, darting through the underbrush with such purpose, her movements quick and alive. The birds, slicing through the sky, free as the wind itself, even the fish in the pond, gliding through their quiet, watery world. Their lives seemed so full, so different from his own, where days blended into one another, marked only by rolls in the mud and soft snorts of contentment. What would it be like, he mused, to run that fast, to fly that high, to swim that deep? His heart tugged, a gentle ache, as if happiness might be hiding in someone else's story. The pig sat up, mud dripping from his ears. He looked out across the forest, where fireflies began to dance, their tiny lights flickering like promises. In the distance, he saw a flash of movement, a rabbit, bounding between patches of moonlight. "She's so swift," he said, a smile tugging at his lips. "So free. Maybe that's what I'm missing." His voice was soft, almost lost in the night's hum, but it carried a spark of longing. And so, with the mud still clinging to his sides, he decided to listen to that spark, to see where it might lead. The little pig, still damp with mud, sat at the edge of his pit, his eyes tracing the rabbit's swift movements through the moonlit forest. Her fur was a soft blur of white, darting between shadows and patches of silver light. Each leap seemed effortless, as if she danced with the wind itself. The pig's heart fluttered with a mix of awe and yearning. To move like that, he whispered, his snout twitching. To be so light, so alive. That must be what happiness feels like. The forest hummed around him, crickets weaving their song into the night, but his thoughts were fixed on the rabbit's boundless energy. As if sensing his gaze, the rabbit slowed, her ears swiveling like delicate antennas. She turned, her eyes glinting in the moonlight, and hopped closer, pausing on a patch of clover just beyond the mud pit. "Are you watching me?" "Pig?" she asked, her voice soft but threaded with a nervous edge, like a leaf trembling in a breeze. The pig nodded, his muddy ears flopping gently. "I am," he said, his tone warm and earnest. "You move so fast, so free. It's like you're never weighed down by anything. I wish I could feel that kind of freedom." He shifted in the mud, the squelch beneath him grounding, yet suddenly insufficient. "My days are just this rolling, resting, laughing. It's nice. But your life seems so much more." The rabbit tilted her head, her nose twitching as she studied him. For a moment, she was still, a rare pause in her constant motion. Then she sighed, a sound so soft it nearly melted into the night. "It looks that way, doesn't it?" she said, her voice quieter now, almost confiding. "But this speed, this freedom, you see, it's not what you think." She glanced over her shoulder, her eyes scanning the shadows, as if expecting danger to emerge from the dark. The pig leaned forward, curious. "What do you mean?" he asked, his voice gentle, inviting her to share. The rabbit settled onto her haunches, her ears still alert. "Every hop I take, every dash through the grass, it's not just joy, it's survival. A rustle in the bushes could be a fox. A shadow overhead might be a hawk. My heart races not just from running, but from fear. I'm always listening, always watching, always ready to flee." She paused, her gaze softening as she looked at the pig. "You, though, you sink into your mud pit, carefree, laughing with the wind. You don't know how heavy it is to carry this constant watchfulness. I envy that stillness you have." The pig blinked, his muddy snout wrinkling as her words sank in. I never thought of it that way," he said slowly. "I saw your speed and thought it was all joy, but you're saying, even freedom comes with a cost." His voice was soft, almost a murmur, as if the forest itself might overhear his surprise. The rabbit gave a small nod, her eyes warm but weary. "It does. Little pig, your mud, your laughter, they're a kind of freedom I can only dream of." She twitched her nose once more, then bounded off, her form fading into the underbrush, leaving only the echo of her words. The pig settled back into the mud, its cool embrace familiar yet somehow different now. He looked up at the stars, their light steady and unhurried. "Even her dance has its shadows," he murmured, his heart stirring with a new understanding. The forest whispered back, its gentle hum wrapping around him, as he wondered what other truths lay hidden in the lives he admired. The little pig lay back in his mud pit, the cool sludge settling around him like a familiar embrace. The rabbit's words still lingered, soft as the forest's nighttime hum, stirring a quiet wonder in his heart. He gazed upward, where the sky stretched wide and endless, a canvas of deep indigo dotted with stars. Then a flicker of movement caught his eye. A bird, her wings slicing through the air with a grace that made his breath catch. She soared in gentle arcs, her feathers catching the moonlight like whispers of silver. To fly like that, the pig murmured, his voice barely louder than the rustle of leaves, to rise above the world, untouched by its weight. That must be true happiness. He watched her loop and glide, each motion so effortless it seemed she was part of the sky itself. His muddy hooves twitched, as if longing to join her in that boundless freedom. The forest's sounds crickets chirping, a distant stream's murmur faded as he imagined himself weightless, carried by the wind, far from the earth's pull. If I could fly, he whispered, I'd leave behind this restless ache. I'd find something brighter, something more. As if hearing his thoughts, the bird tilted her wings and descended, her flight slowing until she perched delicately on a low branch just above the mud pit. Her eyes, bright and knowing, met the pig's. You're watching me, aren't you? She chirped, her voice light but tinged with a quiet weariness, like a melody played too long. The pig nodded, his snout glistening with mud. I am, he said softly, his tone warm with admiration. You move like a dream, so free, so high above it all. I wish I could know what that's like, to soar without limits. He shifted in the mud, its familiar squelch grounding him even as his heart reached for the sky. The bird fluffed her feathers, settling onto the branch with a gentle rustle. Flying is a gift, she said, her voice soft as a breeze. The world looks small from up there, and for a moment you feel untouchable. The wind carries you, and the stars seem close enough to touch. She paused, her gaze drifting to the horizon, where clouds gathered like silent promises of rain. But it's not always what it seems. The pig tilted his head, curious. What do you mean? He asked, his voice gentle, inviting her to share more. The bird's eyes softened, but a shadow crossed them. The sky is vast, but it's not always kind, she said. When storms come, the wind turns fierce, pulling at my wings until they ache. Rain weighs me down, makes every flap a struggle. Sometimes I'm blown far from home, lost in clouds so thick I can't see the ground. She looked at the pig, her voice dropping to a near whisper. Up there, I'm free, but I'm also fragile. I envy you, pig, with your mud pit, your solid ground. You rest without fear of falling. The pig's ears flopped as her words sank in, heavy yet gentle, like raindrops on leaves. I thought flying was all joy, he said, his voice slow, thoughtful. But you're saying, even the sky has its struggles. The mud felt cooler now, not just a place to roll, but a refuge, steady and sure. The bird nodded, her feathers catching a stray beam of moonlight. Every wing beat has its price, she said. Your mud, your laughter, the way you sink into this earth. That's a kind of freedom I long for when the storms rage. With a soft chirp, she spread her wings and lifted into the night, her form a fleeting shadow against the stars. The pig settled deeper into the mud, its embrace softer now, more precious. He looked up, the sky still vast but no longer a distant dream. Even her wings carry weight, he murmured, the forest's hum wrapping around him like a lullaby. His heart stirred, not with longing now, but with a quiet question: what else might he learn from the lives he thought were brighter than his own? The little pig nestled deeper into his mud pit, the cool earth cradling him as the bird's words echoed softly in his mind. Her wings, so graceful, carried burdens he hadn't imagined. The forest hummed around him, its nighttime chorus of crickets and rustling leaves weaving a gentle blanket over his thoughts. Yet, a restless spark still flickered in his chest, urging him to seek more, to understand what lay beyond his muddy haven. He rose, his hooves sinking slightly into the soft ground, and wandered toward a nearby pond, its surface a mirror of moonlight, rippling with quiet secrets. He peered into the water, its stillness broken by a silver fish darting just beneath the surface. Her movements were fluid, almost ghostly, as she wove through the pond's depths, her scales catching the light like scattered stars. The pig's eyes widened, his snout twitching with wonder. To live like that, he whispered, his voice blending with the night's soft murmur, to glide through a world of gentle waves, untouched by wind or storm, that must be peace itself. He imagined himself slipping into that quiet realm, free from the forest's noise, weightless in a world of endless calm. The fish, as if sensing his gaze, slowed her dance and rose closer to the surface. Her eyes, bright and unblinking, met the pig's. "Are you speaking to me, little pig?" she asked, her voice a soft ripple, like water lapping at the shore. The pig nodded, his muddy ears flopping gently. "I am," he said, his tone warm and curious. "Your world looks so serene, so safe. No storms to shake you, no wind to push you away. Just quiet. I wish I could know that kind of peace." He leaned closer, the mud on his snout reflecting in the pond's glassy surface, his heart aching for the calm he saw in her fluid grace. The fish swished her tail, sending a delicate wave across the water. "The pond is quiet." "Yes," she said, her voice soft but tinged with a quiet weight. "The water wraps around me, cool and constant, and for a moment it feels like the world is still. But this calm, it's not what you think." She paused, her fins fluttering as she glanced toward the pond's darker depths, where shadows seemed to shift and stir. The pig tilted his head, his hooves sinking deeper into the soft earth. "What do you mean?" he asked, his voice gentle, inviting her to share her story. The fish circled slowly, her eyes never leaving his. "Beneath this surface, danger waits," she said. "Bigger fish lurk in the deep, their jaws silent but swift. I must keep moving, always watching, always wary. Even at night, my eyes stay open, my body never truly at rest." Her voice softened, almost a sigh. "You, pig, you sink into your mud, laughing with friends, letting the earth hold you. I envy that stillness, that safety. My world is peace, but it's a peace I can never fully trust." The pig's snout wrinkled as her words settled over him, heavy yet gentle, like ripples spreading across the pond. "I thought your life was all calm," he said slowly, his voice barely above a whisper. "But you're saying, even this quiet has its fears." The mud beneath him felt warmer now. Not just a place to roll, but a refuge, steady and sure. The fish gave a small nod, her scales glinting in the moonlight. "Every current hides a shadow," she said. "Your mud pit, your joy, the way you rest without worry, that's a peace I long for." With a flick of her tail, She dove back into the depths, her form fading into the water's embrace, leaving only a faint ripple behind. The pig sat back, the pond's surface still once more, reflecting the stars above. Even her calm carries weight, he murmured, the forest's hum wrapping around him like a lullaby. His heart stirred, not with longing now, but with a quiet question, what other truths hid in the lives he thought were brighter than his own? The little pig lingered by the pond, the fish's words rippling through his thoughts like the water's gentle waves. Her world, so serene at first glance, held its own silent struggles. The forest's nighttime hum wrapped around him, crickets chirping, leaves whispering in the breeze as he felt the familiar pull of his mud pit calling him back. But the restless spark in his chest still glowed, urging him to wander, to seek answers to the quiet ache within. He turned from the pond, his hooves sinking softly into the earth, and wandered deeper into the forest, where tall trees stretched toward the stars like ancient sentinels. In the distance, a graceful silhouette caught his eye. A giraffe, her long neck swaying gently, reached high into the canopy, nibbling leaves with a quiet elegance. Her spots glowed faintly under the moonlight, and her movements were slow, deliberate, as if she carried the weight of the sky itself. The pig stopped, his snout twitching with wonder. To stand so tall, he murmured, his voice blending with the forest's soft chorus. To see the world from such heights. That must be what it feels like to truly understand life. He imagined himself gazing over the treetops, the forest laid out like a map, every secret revealed from above. The giraffe's ears flicked, catching his whispered words. She lowered her long neck, her eyes warm and curious, meeting the pig's gaze. "Are you speaking of me?" "Little one?" she asked, her voice deep and gentle, like the rustle of leaves in a summer breeze. The pig nodded, his muddy ears flopping as he craned his neck to look up at her. "I am," he said, his tone bright with admiration. "You're so tall, so grand. You must see everything, the whole forest, the rivers, the hills beyond. I wish I could know what it's like to have that view, to feel so close to the sky." He shifted in the soft grass, the mud on his sides glistening, his heart yearning for the perspective he imagined she held. The giraffe smiled, her eyes crinkling with a quiet kindness. She lowered her head further, her long lashes casting delicate shadows. "The view is beautiful," she said, her voice soft but heavy with thought. "From up here, I see the sunrise paint the horizon, the rivers winding like silver threads. It feels vast, like I hold the world's secrets." She paused, her gaze drifting to the ground, where the grass swayed under her hooves. But height comes with its own struggles. "Little pig." The pig tilted his head, his hooves sinking into the earth. "Struggles?" he asked, his voice gentle, inviting her to share more. The giraffe sighed, her long neck swaying slightly. "To reach water, I must bend low, spreading my legs in an awkward dance that leaves me vulnerable. My knees ache, my balance falters. Last week, I nearly tumbled into a pond, chasing a sip that felt so far away." Her eyes softened, meeting his. "And sometimes, the height isolates me. I'm so far above. It's hard to feel close to others. You, pig, with your mud pit, your friends gathering around. You have a warmth I rarely know." The pig's snout wrinkled as her words settled over him, heavy yet tender, like a breeze carrying the scent of rain. "I thought your height was all power," he said slowly, his voice barely above a whisper. But you're saying, even the highest view has its challenges. The ground beneath him felt steadier now. The mud pit not just a place to roll, but a space where he could connect, belong. The giraffe nodded, her neck curving gracefully. Every height has its humbling moments, she said. Your muddy haven, your laughter with friends, that's a closeness I envy. With a gentle nod, she raised her head, her silhouette blending into the moonlit canopy, leaving the pig alone with his thoughts. He turned back toward his mud pit, the forest's hum wrapping around him like a familiar song. Even her view carries weight, he murmured, the stars above steady and unhurried. His heart stirred, not with longing now, but with a growing wonder what other truths lay hidden in the lives he thought were brighter than his own. The little pig trudged back toward his mud pit, the giraffe's words settling into his thoughts like soft rain on parched earth. Her lofty view, so grand from below, carried struggles he hadn't seen. The forest's nighttime hum enveloped him, crickets weaving their steady song, leaves whispering secrets to the breeze as he felt the familiar pull of his muddy haven. Yet, that restless spark still flickered in his chest, nudging him to wander further, to seek answers to the quiet questions in his heart. His hooves sank into the soft soil, each step deliberate, as he moved deeper into the woods, where shadows danced under the moonlight's silver glow. A low rumble shook the ground, steady and deep, like the heartbeat of the forest itself. The pig paused, his snout twitching, as an elephant emerged from the trees. Her massive frame moved with a quiet grace, her trunk swaying gently, her eyes warm and ancient, as if they held the wisdom of countless seasons. The pig's heart skipped, awed by her presence. To be so strong, he whispered, his voice barely louder than the rustle of leaves. To carry such power, unshaken by anything, that must be what it means to feel truly secure. He imagined himself with that strength, unyielding, able to face any challenge without fear. The elephant's ears flapped softly, catching his murmured words. She turned her head, her gaze settling on the pig with a gentle curiosity. Are you speaking of me, little one? She rumbled, her voice deep and soothing, like the roll of distant thunder on a calm night. The pig nodded, his muddy ears flopping as he gazed up at her towering form. I am, he said, his tone bright with admiration. You're so mighty, so strong, nothing could stand in your way. I wish I could know what it's like to feel that kind of power, to walk through the world without worry. He shifted on the forest floor, the mud on his sides glinting faintly, his heart yearning for the confidence he saw in her steady steps. The elephant lowered her trunk, brushing it lightly against the ground, her eyes softening with a quiet warmth. Strength is a gift, she said, her voice slow and thoughtful. I can move fallen trees, carve paths through the underbrush, protect those who walk beside me. The forest bends to my steps. She paused, her gaze drifting to a broken branch at her feet, its splintered edges glowing in the moonlight. But this power, it comes with burdens you might not see. The pig tilted his head, his hoofs sinking into the earth. Burdens, he asked, his voice gentle, inviting her to share more. The elephant sighed, a sound like a soft gust through the trees. My size makes me clumsy at times. I break things without meaning to branches, fences, even the trust of smaller creatures who fear my steps. Last week, I tripped over a log, and the forest seemed to hold its breath, watching me struggle to rise. Her eyes met his, steady but tinged with weariness. And I move slowly, always trailing behind the quick and the light. You, pig, with your mud pit, your carefree rolls, your laughter echoing through the trees, you have an ease I long for. The pig's snout wrinkled as her words sank in, heavy yet tender, like the weight of a fallen leaf. I thought your strength meant freedom, he said slowly, his voice barely above a whisper. But you're saying, even power has its limits. The mud pit, far behind him now, felt more like a refuge than ever, a place where he could be small and still belong. The elephant nodded, her trunk curling gently. Every strength carries its shadow, she said, your muddy haven, your joy in simple things. That's a lightness I envy. With a soft rumble, she turned, her massive form blending into the forest shadows, leaving the pig alone with the night's quiet hum. He stood still, the forest's song wrapping around him like a familiar lullaby. Even her strength carries weight, he murmured, the stars above steady and unhurried. His heart stirred, not with longing now, but with a growing wonder what other truths lay hidden in the lives he thought were brighter than his own. The little pig lingered in the forest's embrace, the elephant's words settling into his thoughts like soft embers glowing in the dark. Her strength, so mighty from afar, carried a weight he hadn't imagined. The night's hum wove around him, crickets singing, leaves whispering in the gentle breeze as the familiar pull of his mud pit tugged at his heart. Yet, that restless spark still flickered within, urging him to wander further, to seek answers to the quiet longing that stirred his soul. His hooves pressed into the soft earth, each step a quiet promise to understand more, as he ventured toward the forest's shadowed edge. A low growl rumbled through the trees, deep and resonant, like the pulse of the earth itself. The pig froze, his snout twitching, as golden eyes gleamed from the darkness. A lion stepped forward, his mane shimmering like molten sunlight under the moon's silver glow. His presence was commanding, his steps deliberate, each one radiating a quiet power that made the forest seem to hold its breath. The pig's heart quickened, awed by the sight, to be so regal. He whispered, his voice barely louder than the rustle of leaves, to walk as a king, respected by all. That must be what it means to live without doubt. He imagined himself with that authority, untouchable, every step a declaration of certainty. The lion's eyes softened, catching the pig's murmured words. He paused, his tail flicking gently, and turned his gaze toward the little pig. "Are you speaking of me?" he asked, his voice a low rumble, warm yet tinged with a quiet weight, like a storm held at bay. The pig nodded, his muddy ears flopping as he gazed up at the lion's towering form. "I am," he said, his tone bright with awe. "You're the king of the forest, feared and admired. Every creature bows to you, and nothing stands in your way. I wish I could know what it's like to carry that kind of strength, to live so sure of your place." He shifted on the forest floor, the mud on his sides catching the moonlight, his heart yearning for the certainty he saw in the lion's steady gaze. The lion lowered his head, his mane brushing the ground, and a faint smile curved his lips. "Kingship is a heavy crown," he said, his voice soft but resonant, like a distant echo. "The forest parts for me. Yes, animals bow, offer respect, and my roar carries far." He paused, his eyes drifting to the shadows, where the trees stood silent and still. But this respect, it builds walls. They bow, but they do not linger. They listen, but they do not speak. I eat alone, sleep alone, carry the weight of their fear alone. The pig tilted his head, his hooves sinking into the earth. Alone, he asked, his voice gentle, inviting the lion to share more. The lion's gaze grew distant, as if seeing memories in the starlight. Last night, I watched the fireflies dance, and no one joined me. The forest is mine to roam, but it's also a vast, empty space. Your laughter, pig, the way you roll in your mud with friends who see you as you are. That's a warmth I rarely know. His eyes met the pig's, steady but softened by a quiet ache. Being king is a solitary path. You, with your simple joys, have something richer than any crown. The pig's snout wrinkled as the lion's words sank in, heavy yet tender, like a breeze carrying the scent of distant rain. I thought your life was all power, he said slowly, his voice barely above a whisper. But you're saying, even a king feels alone. The mud pit, far behind him, felt more precious now, a place where laughter and friendship wove a warmth he hadn't fully seen. The lion nodded, his mane catching the moonlight's glow. Every crown has its shadow, he said. Your muddy haven, your ease with others, that's a richness I envy. With a soft growl, he turned, his form blending into the forest's shadows, leaving the pig alone with the night's gentle hum. The pig stood still, the forest's song wrapping around him like a familiar lullaby. Even his throne carries weight, he murmured, the stars above steady and unhurried. His heart stirred, not with longing now, but with a deepening wonder what other truths lay hidden in the lives he thought were brighter than his own. The little pig stood still at the forest's edge, the lion's words settling into his heart like moonlight pooling on the ground. The king's crown, so radiant from afar, was heavy with solitude, a truth that softened the restless spark within him. The forest's nighttime hum wrapped around him, crickets weaving their gentle song, leaves whispering secrets to the stars as he felt the pull of his mud pit, not as a destination now, but as a quiet anchor. Each step he'd taken, each creature he'd met, had unraveled a piece of the longing he'd carried. The rabbit's speed, the bird's wings, the fish's currents, the giraffe's view, the elephant's strength, the lion's reign all held gifts, but each bore shadows he hadn't seen. He wandered back toward his muddy haven, his hooves sinking into the soft earth, each step slower, more deliberate. The forest seemed to hold its breath, the air thick with the scent of moss and dew. He reached the edge of his pit, its surface glinting under the moon, a mirror reflecting the stars and his own pink, muddy form. He paused, gazing into it, not at the sky above, but at himself, small, round, content in his simplicity. What am I chasing? He whispered, his voice blending with the night's soft hum. All this time, I thought happiness was out there, in their lives, their gifts. He sank into the mud, its cool embrace wrapping around him like an old friend. The squelch was familiar, grounding, a reminder of countless evenings spent rolling, laughing, being. He thought of the rabbit, her heart racing with fear even in her swiftest leaps. The bird, battling storms that weighed her fragile wings. The fish, ever watchful in her quiet currents. The giraffe, bending awkwardly to reach the earth. The elephant, stumbling under her own strength. The lion, alone beneath his crown. Each life, so bright from afar, carried its own quiet struggles, its own hidden aches. And then he thought of his own life, the mud pit, cool and steady, where he could sink without fear, the laughter shared with friends who gathered close, their voices weaving joy into the night, the simple act of rolling, of snorting with delight, of being himself without pretense. "I've been looking outward," he murmured, his snout twitching as a smile broke across his face. "But what if happiness has been here all along?" The words felt like a soft revelation, warm and light, like a firefly's glow against the dark. He looked up at the stars, their light steady, unhurried, as if nodding in agreement. The forest's hum grew softer, a lullaby cradling his thoughts. His heart no longer stirred with questions but pulsed with a quiet certainty. "I am enough," he whispered, the mud hugging him closer, the night wrapping him in its gentle embrace. The spark within him flickered, not with longing now, but with a newfound peace, ready to share with those who taught him to see. The little pig sat in his mud pit, the cool sludge hugging him as the forest's hum wove a gentle lullaby. The lion's solitude, the elephant's stumbles, the giraffe's awkward bends, all had shifted his gaze inward. His heart, once restless, now glowed with the quiet truth. Happiness wasn't in chasing another's life, but in cherishing his own. The stars above twinkled, as if whispering agreement, and the air felt warm with possibility. He looked around, sensing the presence of the friends he'd met, their eyes glinting in the moonlight. "Come," he called softly, his voice bright with invitation. "Join me in the mud. Let's share this joy." The forest seemed to pause, the night holding its breath. The rabbit bounded forward, hesitating only a moment before leaping in. Mud splashing her fur, she giggled. The bird swooped low, her wings scattering droplets like tiny stars. The fish swirled near the pond's edge, sending ripples to join the fun. The giraffe stepped carefully, her hooves sinking as she chuckled. The elephant trumpeted, her trunk stirring a muddy wave that made everyone laugh. Even the lion, his mane streaked with earth, rolled beside the pig, his growl softening into a joyful rumble. They played as equals, not as runners or flyers or kings, but as friends, bound by the simple delight of the moment. Mud flew, laughter echoed, and the forest glowed with their shared warmth. The pig's heart swelled, full of the joy he'd once sought elsewhere, now found right here, in the mess and the laughter, as the forest hushed under a silver veil of moonlight. The little pig curled into his muddy bed, the laughter of his friends still echoing softly in his ears. The rabbit, the bird, the fish, the giraffe, the elephant, and the lion, they'd all joined him, their differences melting into the joy of togetherness. His heart was full, not with grand dreams or distant desires, but with the warmth of this moment, this place, this life. "I thought I needed more," he whispered to the stars, their light steady and kind, but happiness was here, in the mud, in my friends, in being me. The forest hummed its agreement, a gentle lullaby of crickets and leaves. And you, dear listener, are enough. Let the day's worries slip away like mist on the wind. You are seen, you are whole, you are loved. Close your eyes, breathe deeply, and let the night carry you gently into sleep. Good night.